because there's not enough nipples for like the positioning of the nipples doesn't necessarily line up with the puppies. So sometimes they're like fighting for one, so I have to rearrange them a little bit. So if I get up, that's most likely what I'm doing.
Are you like offering one of your nipples to supplement the?
I try. They don't take to it. I'm not really sure why.
I'll say this though: if you ever have to bottle feed or give her a break, if you go to any Tractor Supply, you will find an assortment of nipples in all shapes and sizes and colors and breeds and species that you can't get your hands off of. So
that's fucking crazy. That is good to know.
I might go to Tractor Supply just for research purposes.
Hey, it's an adult store.
Maybe.
Did you guys see that one of my NFL brackets is at like 90 something % right now? Are either of you guys at 100?
I never filled one out.
Oh, so it's just me and Anthony. Nice.
Yeah, it's just us. But Trey, go ahead and give your Super Bowl pick while we're on it.
You know,
put it document it.
Lions, baby.
Lions.
I like that pick.
I believe.
I like that.
I think this is it. I think it's something we need right now as a culture, as a society. Like we need a real underdog to come through. They've never been to a Super Bowl.
Okay, they're not the underdog. They're actually the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Just
but
like historically speaking,
right,
as far as like their franchise.
Yeah, Detroit needs it.
The Eagles look like shit. The Eagles should have beat the Packers by like 40 points.
Well, they
didn't capitalize on any of those.
The last play of the game before the knee, Saquon was on his way to another touchdown, and he falls down purposely on like the 40-yard line. When he had 60 yards, he was on his way. So they're in shape. The Ravens are in shape. The Lions are in shape. Chiefs.
Bills.
We'll just see.
I would love first off the Bills. Say hi, baby. The Bills Ravens game is going to be fucking electric, but I would love a Ravens Lions Super Bowl. I think that would be sick to watch. Yeah, so
that's what I'm thinking.
That would be really
nice.
Ravens
Eagles. That's what I mean. They've got teams that are ballers, so I really would take anybody but the Chiefs. And no offense, but let's share the wealth. But I think these teams are legit, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, all right, this week, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Totally Biased Music. Blake, Anthony, Trey. This week we have, and Amanda too. This week we are doing ZABA by Glass Animals, which was my pick, and then Flow, which is Anthony's movie pick. So yeah, I picked ZABA because Trey knows I'm a big Glass Animals guy and was really, really into him when ZABA came out. And I actually saw him at Bonnaroo that year that ZABA released. They played at the time. The other stage was a tent, throwback for all you new Bonnaroo people. And they played the other tent at like 1 a.m. and it was a packed fucking house. And it was just a great vibe, great time. And yeah, this album to me is timeless. They have such a unique sound. I'm super, super interested to hear what Anthony has to say about them. Because this is like I brought a new Glass Animal song for Rides or Dies like many, many months ago. And Anthony said that he hadn't listened to him, that he was going to hold off on listening to full projects. So this should be his first take. But I think like nobody in the world right now, like at least when ZABA came out, nobody in the world was making music like Glass Animals to me. Nobody had the Glass Animals sound, especially when it comes to ZABA. Now their new albums kind of have a departure from that, but really, really enjoyed them. So, Anthony, what did you think? Your first ride, right?
Ready for this? So, so really interesting for sure. So the other day, I guess it was Friday, we had massive snow in Birmingham, and we don't ever get snow. And it was snow enough to where like I had to check on a friend's dog that was in the neighborhood who I was checking on regularly, but I didn't even feel like driving to their house. So I did this long walk. It was probably like a mile. And that was my first listening to this album. So like imagine me with headphones on walking in snow in the middle of the street of a neighborhood. And that's how I took it in. It was super interesting to say the least. Like I'm going to try to stick middle of the road till we get to where I have to really pivot to my opinion. But like there were a lot of sounds that were like transporting me to another environment. That's what it felt like. And I hadn't heard music like that with the bass patterns and the bass lines that they're adding to this music too. So it was really taking me in a lot of different directions mentally. and that is aside from the lyrics. I didn't pay attention or try to pay attention to the lyrics till today, re-listening to it a second and third time. So extremely interesting listen. I do have a lot of questions, and I'll leave it at that. I mean, well, I'll say this. It's a minimal album from a seemingly from a production standpoint. There are a lot of sounds and a lot of textures and a lot of rhythms and a lot of words being thrown at you, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels very minimal. And after the first listen too, this album to me is like a sample gold mine, from small bass lines, from texture, from tonal samples. I mean, there's a lot of interesting sounds going throughout this. So very excited to talk about it and honestly get y'all's vibe just with these guys and see what they're all about too.
Very nice. Trey, I know you've dabbled before, so what'd you think?
Yeah. So first off, I remember that show at Bonnaroo quite well. I was separated from you all. I think y'all were like kind of in front of soundboard a little bit or something, and I like left for whatever reason. And I tried to get back to you, and that thing was so fucking packed. It was like an impossible task. So I tried to climb a tree for like half of the set so that I could see the show. I really thought I was going to be able to remember. There's like, so you got the tent, right? And there's like that one tree that's outside.
Yeah, to the right. It's like on the right side. Yeah, it's still there.
So like half the thing, I'm just like trying to like bear hug the tree, and I'm sure I was high, and like I really thought I was going to be able to get up there. I mean, the limb that I was going to sit on was like 10 feet in the air. And eventually I just gave up and kind of just like watched the show like from the trunk of the tree. Couldn't really see much, but it was a good time for sure. I probably didn't have as much fun as y'all did, but I did have a good time.
Still a great story though.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, Bonnaroo. This is kind of a Bonnaroo themed ish episode, kind of, because Glass Animals are coming back. They're headlining Bonnaroo this year. You and I both picked acts that are going to be playing at Bonnaroo, so we can kind of get into some of that later. But I really like this album. I've always liked this album. My only qualm with the Glass Animals, or not necessarily qualm, I guess it's more so something against me. I've never listened to anything else they've ever played or put out.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
This is pretty much it for me. So this kind of sparked an interest for me to kind of dig a little bit deeper with them. But yeah, ZABA is fantastic. It's like this weird art, dance, rock, alternative thing.
Dustin was like the genre. There is no genre.
Yeah. They are kind of like cousins of Animal Collective a little bit, as far as like meshing like kind of like lyrics and like some falsetto voices with like dance music patterns. Excuse me. So like I think that they definitely are influenced by Animal Collective. If I had to like pick an artist that's like similar, but they do a lot more like psychedelia, a lot more like intentional like drippiness, at least in this record. So I'm excited to get into the top three, bottom three, and honorable mentions.
Well, Anthony, do you have some questions that you want to ask now, or you want to wait?
Well, I'll ask this one now. So, and forgive me if you said this, but like, you didn't discover them at Bonnaroo, did you? You had listened to them some prior, Blake. Is that right?
Yeah. So actually, the first song I'd heard was, when was this? I was coming back from some road trip, and I heard Pools. Pools was actually the first Glass Animal song I heard, which is funny because Gooey is like the popular song and was the single, but I heard Pools first. So I had like minimal knowledge of them going into Bonnaroo. Like I knew Pools and was like, yeah, that would be cool. And so that was my intro to him. I didn't know him very well going into it.
But so you think the live show kind of put it where it needed to go for you to say, all right, let's keep going and figure out
100%. Yeah. And then I saw them years later. This must have been in the 20s, so, or maybe it was like 18 or 19, but then they played Which Stage, and that was after their second album came out, How to Be a Human Being. Totally different environment, totally different set, and not to knock like their direction, because I like How to Be a Human Being, but the show, like, the environment was just not the environment that it was the first time. They played at like 10 o'clock, so it was probably earlier actually, so there was a lot of people there that were probably just there because they were on that stage, right? Like it was way bigger. It wasn't as enjoyable. I really enjoyed the 2014 one maybe it was 2015 compared to that set.
Do you remember any like And Trey, you two from your sightline from the tree, but like any weirdness on stage, like how weird are these guys? Is what I really want to know. Like, is there like greenery on the stage? Is there fucking? I know there's not people coming out and dressed up and shit, but like this is like it has so much of a Spangle
I was just like, hey,
atmosphere,
it's not like
right?
Spangle.
But like I wish it was, because
Yeah.
it think of like imagine these guys indoors, weird lighting, just fucking oddities. Like I want to see these guys perform this album in a room full of fucking odd shit. And I think that would be interesting, or out in the jungle, But like I was curious, is any weird shit that you remember?
So this is super weird timing because I don't remember, because we were pretty far back and the crowd was
Yeah,
thick
yeah.
as fuck.
Yeah, I get it.
So
And it's Bonnaroo.
I'm listening to Black Mambo right now, and I just pulled up the set from 2015 and skipped in 6 minutes, and they're playing Black Mambo. But no, from looking at it looking at this footage, it just looks like, I mean, I remember a lot of purple. That's what I remember. And this that I'm looking at, the lights are purple, but that nothing like out of the ordinary on stage.
Gotcha. Because after my first listen to, or actually after the probably third listen, I was like, how is there no? First off, do y'all know that this album is like a concept album based off of a book called like ZABA Jabba Jungle? Have you heard of this book before?
No.
I have not, and I didn't know that, but that's definitely the vibe I get from listening to it.
So there's a book. It's by William Steig. Because like I said, I was like, where is this inspiration coming from? Because there's too much context in the lyrics that are so strange that I'm like, if this is all coming out of your head, like you're just like in another league. But this book, I haven't found it and I haven't read it. But ZABA Jabba Jungle by William Steig apparently is the inspiration for at least for a lot of this album. But I was curious to know if there was any visual accompaniment with this. And officially, I don't think there is, besides maybe a music video, but there is that audio visual album that I sent you guys that's on Vimeo that I think is just a fan made project that I haven't watched it yet, but like I can't not see things moving to this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. Absolutely. Did you have any other curiosities you wanted to peek before we moved on?
It's a 4-piece band, right?
Yeah.
So 4-piece band. Not a lot of questions. Like I said, it'll this being their first album says a lot as far as what they were willing to put out there into the world without any thing backing you. Which I mean, it's ballsy because, like I said, this is a weird album. Not like weird as I think it would attract more people than turn them off, but like interesting combination of vocals and sounds and instrumentation. So yeah, it's very eclectic to say the least.
I agree. Well, let's get into top tracks. Before we do, we have somebody. This might be the first time ever.
Question. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. We have somebody on Twitch, FJ89 officials, and how you guys doing? We're doing great, man. We hope you're doing great too. And we hope you're listening to Glass Animals. But let's get into top tracks. Trey, you lead us off.
I just feel like a celebrity right now. All right, so top tracks. All right, so for 3, I have Hazy. That song's just like, it's just hot. It's sexy. It has that like cool like bounce track. It's like has that falsetto chorus plus the that like F-bomb that he drops in there is like very like pronounced.
It's so good.
Yeah,
Something about it is so crisp.
Yeah, it's right there in the pocket. So yeah, definitely Hazy. And then my second track I have is Walla Walla. It's this like it's raucous. It's like almost like a Moombathan beat. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce that word. But it's like kind of like reggae dance music or whatever. There's that drum solo at the end that's kind of all over the place. Not to bring it up, but Pretty Lights is just always on my mind. It reminds me of the way that Alvin kind of will like take drum solos and like big electronic breaks, and then like it becomes like very like acoustic sounding. And also, like, I don't know, that song just kind of sneaks up on you. It's like one of those that if you listen to this album a lot, which I feel like I probably have. And then I was like on my re-listen, I was like, damn, like I forgot about this song. And you just like kind of start moving your body a little bit. Like it's definitely like a dance hall banger. And then my number 1 track is the opening track on the album is Flip. Flip is
banger.
So
So
good
good.
that our friend Joe, so Joe was playing like a really late night, like 4 a.m. Resonate like stage, like they like it was like a Renegade stage or whatever, and he mixed this song up with a song by this like electronic duo called Echo, which is named after the third soprano brother. Like his Echo is like the one that they like sent away or whatever. Anyway, um, but they're like kind of low key like electronic duo, but like the way that this song just like mixed in with like that track and like had everybody moving or like laying down, just having their mind blown, be like, is this fucking Glass Animals right now? Because while the song isn't as familiar, like the voice is like unmistakable. Like
Oh, and the
you know
sound, like the sound of
yeah.
them
So like
too.
all of a sudden you're just like, is this Glass Animals? And we were just having a great time. Like that's a like a top like probably 20 live music moment for me. Just a ton of fun. So the song always brings me back to that.
Fuck
So yeah, those are my top three.
Very
You
nice.
want to honorably mention anything?
Oh yeah, I did have an honorable mention. Thank you. How did you know? Are you my notes?
Hey.
I'm just so flustered from our live listener.
A lot of pressure.
Honorable mention is In Trucks. So like it serves as this really cool interlude. I think it's the only fully instrumental track on the record. Towards the end, there's kind of like some harmonizing, like scatting or like vocals or whatever you want to call it. But it's just like super drippy, and it builds throughout the track, and it sounds almost like a jam session, like they're in a room, kind of like just with a bunch of like synthesizers and like a guitar and drums and shit. And they're just like jamming off each other, and then it has like a really long wind down period for like this band. Like they're typically like clocking in 3.5 4 minute tracks. This has like almost like a 25-30 second like ambient wind down period that really pushes you into the second half of the album. So yeah, thank you for reminding
Yeah.
me.
So speaking of like that being in a room, so Dave is, I believe the lead singer's name is Dave.
Yeah.
He did quarantine covers during COVID.
Forgot
So
about that.
he did Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana was his first one. But he does a number of them that's just him kind of sampling, playing different instruments, things like that. He does Lean on Me by Bill Withers. Really, really cool. So if you haven't, you guys should definitely go watch those. His like you said, his voice is unmistakable, right? You can't not know exactly who it is as soon as you start to hear it. Well, let me jump into mine and then we'll go Anthony because I'm super interested to hear that. But number 3 for me, obviously Pools, because like it was just it was my introduction to them, so it feels like it's just a totally biased pick, that it's just a special song in my heart. And it's very like there's songs on here that I think the album as a whole, Anthony said like he doesn't think it would turn people off. I think it's like it's not a super digestible album in the sense that it's very weird to me. Like it's weird in a good way. The sounds are just very unique and different. And I think Pools is kind of the most like dip your toes in song to me. Like the chorus is catchy. But yeah, really, really love Pools. And then I have to go Hazy. And as Trey said, partially like everything Trey said about the instrumentation, but the I'm fucking loco just always gets me hyped, man. Like you said, the F word, the way it's pronounced is so good.
It's like a true F bomb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he just says fuck. Like he's like, I'm fucking loco.
Yeah. And what's funny is they have another song on, because almost all their songs are clean, even on how to be a human being. And he has another song on how to be a human being where he lets loose like one F bomb, and it's like halfway through the album, and he does it the same way. It's like that's right where that needed to go, and it works perfectly. It's almost like he shapes the the track listing on when he's gonna drop that, And then my final song is Cocoa Hooves. So there's a bit of a caveat with Cocoa Hooves. So first off, I love this guitar riff that's through it in the background. It's very subtle, very quiet, but so nice. And then there's a version of ZABA that's called, I think it's just the deluxe version, but they have different versions of all these songs on this album. And they have a stripped version of Cocoa Hooves, which you guys need to go listen to. but oh my god, it is so beautiful. The way, like, and the song itself, Coco Hooves already feels stripped, right? It feels very minimalistic to me, but hearing the stripped version is like even more special. And I think listening to those two back to back and comparing them is just really, really unique. So definitely go listen to that when we're done. But like, to me, it's such a snowboarding song. That's what I hear. Like, it's such a perfect, like, powder day, things are quiet, it's snowing, the mountain is relatively empty, and you can kind of just sit at the top and appreciate and listen to the song. So that's kind of where I go every time I hear it.
Is there other stripped versions of other songs?
So there's Black Mambo stripped, Gooey stripped, Hazy stripped, and then Coco Hooves.
Now, does that also mean no vocals?
No, there's vocals. It's just the instrumentation is brought way back.
Almost like acoustic.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay. But almost like it's acoustic.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
Gotcha.
And then honorable mention is Black Mambo and Toes. Fucking love Toes, man. Toes is like just a bouncy, head bobbing Glass Animals song, and I love the chorus of it too. Like just the way he's riding the instrumentation. It's so wavy, man. It feels so wavy. And I'll get into this later when we talk about the movie, but I do this thing where, and this is crazy because it was totally unplanned, the picks, but I do this thing where like I used to go watch snowboard videos and mute them and play my own music and like watch the snowboard films. I like the entire time I was watching Flow, I was like, I want to go back and rewatch this and mute it and play the Glass Animals album and see what it's like with those visuals mixed with Glass Animals.
Yeah, that's such a fun thing to do, is you create your own synchronicity. You know, sorry if I hit my mic. I've done that with Avatar, the first film. I did this with The Outsiders. I think I blended it was the Doors. There was a Doors album, and then there was another album. But like, I'll send you some stuff that I've done, because obviously The Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon is like the most famous example of that. But that's fun as fuck to do. And then if you got any video software, produce it and like see what happens and like be able to watch it at any time. So, But so with Toes, I have Toes as my number 3 track. I fucking love it. You know, the way that the bass lines and guitar and drums are blended, super good. Dark too, but like a bobber of a track. I think I had written over here, there's some inspiration from The Island of Dr. Moreau and Heart of Darkness, 2 novels that I think influenced that track, at least from the research I was doing. My number 2 track is the instrumental, In Trucks. Like, right in the middle of the album, lots of like Eastern ethnic kind of influences in that track, but so like, it's what I needed. You know, I mentioned the vocals, you know, and I won't talk too much about it, but like, you know, with his voice being in the register that it's at and the words that he's singing, it really takes me out of some of the instrumentation of it. And maybe that's just because I'm not used to hearing, you know, this as often as maybe most people are. But In Trucks for me was such a breather from just the headspace that is being created throughout this album. But I love that track. Wish it was longer, of course, but super good. My number 1 track is Flip, the opening song. So that was like, really hearing that, I was like, holy shit, like this is going to be interesting. I mean, really, I can remember reflecting on that and being like, wow, if this is their sound, I mean, I really hadn't heard anything like this either, you know, just with the way the bass patterns are, because they're not like, there's heavy downbeats, you know, but it's consistent, you know, and it's in this song in particular really builds on itself throughout the track. So love that as an intro to the album and just as, you know, favorite song off this thing. So yep, Flip is number 1 for me.
I'll send you the song that Joe mixed with Flip. I mean, think it's pretty interesting. That was
another part of my listening experience, was like, fuck, if you just play this intro for people in the right setting, it's undeniable. And there's points throughout this album that I really feel that way about, that like I want to find those strip versions, and I would love to find instrumentals too, just to be able to play with those samples and bring in these tracks, you know. There's a part in Black Mambo, sorry, shout out Kobe, that reminds me of Soul, you know, the soundtrack and score of Soul. Like there's some very distinct parts towards the middle end of that track that are just the tinkling, you know, the tinkling of the soul feeling of that film is really resonating in that track too, which, I mean, there's your blend right there. I mean, you could blend Trent Reznor's score with that track and really do some interesting stuff with it. So I think that there's a lot to this album that speaks more than just this album itself. Like I said, the visual accompaniment, the ability to sample it in a live setting, or the way you can just kind of manipulate these songs to just expose people to it. I think it's a really interesting piece, but other albums not really like this, you say?
So
I didn't say that necessarily. I just said that I haven't listened to it.
No, Blake
Sorry, Blake.
mentioned, you know, that
No, you're
the
good.
next album is a different take, right?
Yeah, so How to Be a Human Being does not sound like this. It is very much a departure. I still really enjoy it, and I still really, really like Dreamland, which is their third album. And Dreamland honestly feels more like ZABA than How to Be a Human Being does. And amongst Glass Animals fans, they don't like How to Be a Human Being. I like all three of their projects. I think ZABA is the best. Dreamland is right up there next to it. And I would hold off on listening to it if you haven't. I mean, I would like to do it if you like down the road, just so we can kind of revisit this and see what you guys think comparatively. But no, this is the only album that sounds like this. It gets way more digest. I don't want to say mainstream because I don't feel like they're mainstream, but it's way more of it's a less unique sound than ZABA is, because ZABA is so off the wall to me, you know?
Right.
But I gotta say, and speaking of Flip, like, I think one thing that they do really well is this subtle kind of echo they have throughout the track. There's like with the hit, they have like this kind of drum kick that echoes a little bit. His voice kind of echoes a little bit, and the way it sounds, it's like when you're listening on Bose sound canceling headphones, Bose sponsor us, it really teleports you. The only way to listen to this album, it teleports you into like this, like the woods. You're like in a forest, you know. That's immediately where you go. And I think that speaks volumes to it. But bottom tracks, Trey, what do you got?
Bottom tracks. I have Black Mambo. Still shout out Kobe forever. Just as far as, and I look at this more so in our new challenge of we have to pick 3 bottom tracks. As far as like the bigger songs like Gooey or Hazy, or Pool, which I don't know if Pool is necessarily one of the hits or singles, but I just kind of like Black Mambo the least. So I kind of put it almost like in a little bit of like a category of its own. No real particular reason, just, you know, if we're
just following the rules.
Following the rules. I'm a rule follower.
Fair enough.
Number 2, JD&T. I don't love that song just because it feels kind of misplaced, like with like kind of some of the ambient works that they did within the record, like not necessarily all the songs outside of intro or any of the songs outside of introducts, but just like small passages. I would kind of want this record to end in more of like a set you down type of way. And it just like didn't. The guitar effects in it are pretty cool though. Kind of similar to what you were talking about with Flip and like the echo, like that kind of like echo effect and like circling around in your Bose sound headphones, where like it kind of envelops you a little bit, but it is like a lot more up tempo than I would like. And then What Are You Doing? WRYD. I actually don't like this song. It sounds like disjointed. I think in a lot of ways where some of the concepts and ideas like fall into place really well. This one just like kind of misses the mark as far as like trying some of those different like falsetto voices, some of like kind of the general pop structure, and like meshing that in with like danceable music. This just like doesn't really hit for whatever reason for me. So those are my bottom 3.
I feel that song kind of feels like if you were like partaking in like a tribal ritual and you were maybe sacrificing a person or an animal to a deity that you don't fully understand, Like
the
there's
tone you're using right now seems like you've actually done this. I just want to point that out.
and there's
Headphones on.
yeah, and there's a large bonfire, and you're wearing one of those grass skirt things where like the balls are out, but you can't really see them unless you're at a certain angle, and you're all kind of like dancing around the fire, and this is the song that's playing. You know, that's kind of the vibe I get from it.
That's a little too specific.
Again, haven't done it, but can see it. Okay, so for me, I had to put Gooey on there. Like, I love Gooey, and I think it's a great like intro into Glass Animals for people, but like, man, it has been run into the ground. It just got so popular, and it's almost like Feel It Still with Portugal the Man, where like Portugal the Man has like 130 songs that are better than that song, but it's just the one that happened to blow up, you know? And it's the same thing with Gooey. Good song, but it's been played too much for me.
But hold on, I kind of want to argue this one for a second, because Peanut Butter Vibes is kind of the whole vibe of this album.
That is true. Like, they did kind of nail that.
Yeah.
And then I had JD&T as well, just because like, I don't know, they went out weak to me, you know? They could have ended on a stronger note. And like, I want it in the album. I don't want it there. I want it somewhere else, and I want them to go out on Cocoa Hooves, you know? Still a good song, but just didn't like it as a closer. And then you guys are both not going to like this, but In Trucks, you know? I think like I'm the opposite of Anthony, where I feel like his voice is so special and unique and so peanut buttery that it's like it's what brings it all together to me. Like, I love his voice so much that it not being there just feels like we're being robbed of something that could be even better, you know? So that it's still like, I like its positioning in the album. I like it as an interlude, but I need Dave, man. I need Dave to take me home. And I need Dave Tipper to also to maybe do a Glass Animals flip, you know?
Maybe he sits in with them.
Yeah, or really like, you know how like artists play like music before their shows? I need ZABA played before a Dave Tipper ambient set, and then it'll kind of put me there. You know?
Maybe a banger set. Like if it builds to something, yeah. But
I feel Emerald Hooves. You play Emerald Hooves. And,
there you go. Cocoa Hooves. Also, side note, I had a dream the other day. This has nothing to do with this album, but I had a dream the other day that Amanda was listening to Tipper, and I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, yeah, somebody like told me about this guy. Like, I really like it. And I was like, what do you mean somebody, what is happening right now? Like, and I woke up very confused. So I was like, have you been talking to Anthony? I pictured it, Amanda texted Anthony to make fun of his movie picks. And then Anthony was like, I got something you'll like, and sent her a Tipper track.
That is definitely what would happen for sure. So Amanda, if you're listening, holler, I'll give you Rex. And you can
I don't think she's going to love Tipper.
You never know. All right,
got the direction.
Anthony, what do you got for bottoms?
Well, let me say this, because I was searching real quick to try to figure out what JD&T stands for. Do y'all know? I couldn't find it for the record, but do y'all know what it stands for?
Jesus doesn't know.
No Tipper.
Jesus doesn't know Tipper. Yeah.
Even though
I think it's. But hey. But so what I found out was that apparently on the CD version, or some CD versions, JD&T is actually 8 minutes and 53 seconds long, and it goes into this track called Psylla, Psylla, as like a hidden track after JD&T. So that's like an interesting way to experience this album. I don't know that song, but apparently
that's super interesting. I didn't know that either.
They felt. Yeah, so maybe I bet you find a CD version out there that has it. But yeah, that would be interesting. But so to my bottom track. So the way I broke this up was vocals that I was like, what the fuck, pretty much. So my number 3 track, I was calling it Word, WYRD. I feel like there's a vocal sample throughout this album that kind of utilizes that word. But yeah, so the first line, Tweevil, go dig your hole, squishy squirmies in your nose. There's just lines like that just really have me like taken aback. Like what, like the whole album is like that. So I couldn't be like, well, this is strange, but the whole album is strange. So there's another one in that line. I sold something for a bucket of lemon peel and suck it. Like there's a couple like lemon suck it references in that track too that I was like, this is just interesting. But I'll say this: the last 30 seconds of that track, I love of WYRD. And there's a couple songs like that I was very indecisive on, but the last chunk, which was really kind of leading into the next song, really, I was like, I want more of that. That's really nice, you know. And maybe it was just because I just needed a change of pace within a song, but Word number 3 bottom track. It was kind of fast for me too. Number 2, I have Pools on there.
Oh no!
It was really because I kept getting this weird feeling every time he kept calling himself a boy, like I am your boy or your boy, and I was like, it's just throwing me off from a vocal
he said,
standpoint.
"I am your man," then it would have been okay.
Totally different perspective for sure, you know. But there's just like these little boy, and you know, even in Gooey, right, my little Pooh Bear, what'd you like? Who, I didn't know who he was talking to. You know, that's my. I don't know.
Bear.
I don't know, but apparently, like I said, I got to read this book, ZABA Jabba Jungle, and
well,
like,
I have bad news for you. It's $30, $40 on Amazon. I just looked it up.
Might have to check out my local, you know,
Anthony will pirate it. It's fine.
I'll find the original copy somewhere, you know. But like, that's the thing. I'm really hoping and foreseeing so much context from that, you know, because if there's a story of a kid who's lost in a jungle and he's whatever, a journey, okay, I get it, you know. But like on the first listen, I'm like, who is he talking to and why is he talking to them that way, you know? It was just weird. But like I said, that's my my caveat for these bottom tracks is just vocals, really. Number 1 bottom track, and it's really just the first 2.5 minutes of the song. It's Walla Walla. That Moombahton cadence that you were talking about, Trey, it wasn't resonating with me, so that's kind of why it's there.
Trey's confused. He's confused that you picked that.
So confused.
I mean, Moombahton rhythm is very like it's very
not for you.
Yeah, so that would be why I picked it, you know. But also, here's a lyric for you, Trey. This is specifically for you from Dave Bailey. Funny bunny, it's all right.
Yeah.
Hi, my little naked man. Saw you there looking sad. I don't know. I don't know the rhythm.
What's wrong with that?
I don't understand
I like it.
All right. Well, in Beau is Afraid, there's a naked guy over there really sad, but no. I'm just saying it's a strange context to listen to without any information. So yeah, I don't know. That just to me, it's just a weird combination of words. But he stays consistent with it throughout the album. So I definitely respect it. But yeah, it just throws me off. So we got to read this book and figure out what it's about.
As a lyrics guy, like the lyrics in this album don't matter to me at all. Like I'm not even like really like just it's more so about like the sound that his voice is making. You know,
and I felt that,
and the rhythm of it.
I mean, the past 3 albums, you know, we did The Smile and we did John Mayer. There's a lot of similarities you can pull from those 3 albums and say the vocalist is an instrument in itself. And I get it, you know, but I can't deny the words are there. So I have to ask, like, who is Funny Bunny? Who is he calling Funny Bunny? You know, like, it's just like, it's interesting to me. I'm not saying I hate it. It's just, I want to learn more.
It's Bunny from Pulp Fiction.
I that's my first thought, you know, Honey Bunny on the top of the counter with her gun. But yeah, so my bottom 3, like I said, Walla Walla, Pools, and Word.
So before we get into rankings, like I need to ask, like, do you like this album? Because I can't figure it out. Like I don't need a ranking, but I need to know if you like it or not.
You'll get it with the ranking. So hit me with the Apple Music or whatever you got. You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll look for ones while you do that.
The anticipation is
well, I mean, but like that's how I've felt the past, you know, since Friday. I'm like, I've been totally torn in both directions because, like I said, there are songs that I'm on board with and then I'm not, or I'm off board and then I'm like, oh shit, this is nice. Let me get back in there. So, I mean, this album. You want me to give my ratings, or you got anything, Blake?
No, they don't. There's no mainstream publication reviews, so
Gotcha.
go for it.
Okay, so this album, I could see it really growing on me over time, though there are parts that I will never like not be turned in another direction from. But for me, I liked it. I give it a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I couldn't give it an 8, and I almost gave it a 7.75, but we'll just stick with 7.5.
All right. I think that indicates liking the album.
Yeah,
I would say
anything over a 6 is liking it.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, there was the only time I skipped a track, it was Walla Walla, and it was on the third listen where I was like, okay, now I know how I feel about this part of this track, you know? So like, other than that, there wasn't anything that I was like, I can't, it's unlistenable. No, it's extremely interesting and creative for sure. You know, like that's where this type of project being put out, especially on your first album, especially in 2014, where like people are either listening to pop music or they're being creative, you know, and I think this is definitely in that lane, and maybe it bleeds into both from a digestible standpoint, but like super interesting, you know, and I kind of wish there were more projects like this that you could say, here, take this album, listen to it, and then dig into it, because like that's how I feel about it. So solid 7.5.
Nice. Trey?
I just want to go back to Walla Walla for a second because I started over and paint you a picture. You're down in Miami, right? The sun, it's like late summer. The sun is just set. It's like the beginning of the night, and you're like getting a taco from a little taco stand. Let's say you're even getting maybe a Cuban sandwich or a torta, and you're just sitting there, and this song comes on, and you're just like, it's going to be a good night. You know what I mean? Like,
and you've had 2 whiskey drinks, so you're warm, but you're not drunk.
Tequila. We're drinking tequila, so you got
okay.
drink, and you're on that tequila come up. You know what
I
mean?
Walla.
Yeah. The ladies are beautiful. There's much pain in this world, but there's not much pain in Miami tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what that song is. I give it an 8. 8 for sure. Excellent album.
Nice.
Makes me want to listen to more Glass Animals. Yeah,
for sure. And I would really, really encourage you guys when we get done to go listen to those 4 strip tracks and just see what you think about them, because they're really dope. But yeah, I give it a 9. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's great. I think it's their best project. I don't think it's by a wide margin. I think that Dreamland is a really good album as well. So it's right up there with it. But man, really good, and like just teleports me to a time, you know, 10 years ago when I first saw them, and yeah, good memories with them for sure. So give it a 9.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Well, that was ZABA by Glass Animals. If you haven't listened, go listen. And now we're going to get into Rides or Dies, and I want to lead us off, if that's okay with you guys. So I'm taking, nobody responded, so I'm assuming it is okay with you guys.
You have our permission.
I texted Trey, my New Year's resolution is to listen to more Mac Miller. And the reason it's my New Year's resolution is because I have decided that, you know, 7 years after his passing, it is time for me to stop being sad and stop letting it affect my ability to listen to him. And I'm putting my foot down and I'm putting on my big boy pants, and I'm going to fucking listen to one of my favorite artists of all time. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to appreciate the moments I got while he was alive and the moments that we can still have with him moving forward. So that's my New Year's resolution. So if you see my Instagram stories and there's a shit ton of Mac Miller on there, that's why. All right. I'm revisiting and I'm experiencing this all over again. Now, with that being said, I picked Wedding, which is off of Faces. Not going to go on my rant about putting mixtapes on streaming services. I've done that enough. That being said, I love this song. There is a little skit, I would say, at the beginning, which I'm sure you guys really appreciated because we've talked about that particular type of skit a lot. But yeah, I love this. I love the song. I love the line where he says, for what it's worth, I think you're perfect. There's an angel hiding underneath your surface. I think it's just Mac was such a lover, man, such a lover. And I just love the song as a whole. So what did you guys think, Anthony?
So first off, I thought you changed the Rides or Dies.
You changed
but,
you
I
changed your
did
Rides or
listen to
Dies
this
to a
earlier.
Hosier song.
Huh?
Yeah.
You changed your Rides or Dies to a Hosier
Hosier?
song.
Oh shit! I did. Nah, we're sticking with wedding because
I mean,
we're going back.
get-
We're going back because
That's
of
cool.
because of next week.
The old
Because of
back
next
and
week.
forth.
We had to pivot. Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Well, like, I got to listen to it. I didn't listen to it multiple times, and I will do that for sure. But like, admittedly, I never listened to a lot of Mac Miller when it was happening, and who knows why? I mean, what are Mac Miller's like windows of time? Give me 2 years. When did he pass? And then when was the uprise?
He passed in 2018, right, Blake?
That is correct.
And then probably his like peak creative time, I would say, is 2014 to 20. I mean, honestly, Swimming in Circles, I think is, I don't know, man. Good AM's also 2014 to 2017. Let's just put it there.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Swimming came out
So,
Swimming came out in August, and he died in September, right?
Yeah.
And that was in 2018.
Gotcha. So, I mean, like, realistically, traveling a lot, but listening to other types of music during that time. So, like, this is a whole. I've gotten bits and pieces from lots of different avenues of music and inspiration and artist. But like, I've never really sat down with Mac Miller. Y'all did Swimming in Circles a couple years ago, which the podcast's been going on for a couple years now. Claps for you guys.
That's crazy.
That
is crazy. But that was early. That was early on,
right? Yeah.
That's
so
one of
like,
my favorite episodes we ever did, actually.
Yeah. So listen back. It's probably like 5 or 6 if you catch me on that. But anyway, like I said, I haven't really sat down with Mac Miller, and there's a lot that I really am excited to listen to as it just comes across, whether y'all bring it to the podcast or tell me to hold off, and I will. But like, it's just an artist that I want to learn more about, with just seeing the impact that he's had on you guys and on a lot of our friends and a lot of the culture. I mean, this is what it's all about, and Blake, going back and listening to him, it's without a doubt going to be emotional, but sometimes it's good to unlock those emotions and just go in and know you're going to have a cry, or you're going to have just memories flooding from every direction. So like, and it's so important that you can have that. Right. And that's what he's still giving people, his experiences from beyond, so like, song definitely rides, and excited to get more of him, in my ears here soon. So.
Hell yeah. Trey?
Yeah, the song rides. I didn't realize that you didn't listen to Mac Miller until you text me on New Year's Eve. Like, I knew that you didn't listen to it consistently, but I didn't know you were like, no, I don't listen to this.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I knew you had said that when we listened to Swimming in Circles, and you're like, yeah, I don't really listen to it, but I didn't think that like it was like a full. Nah, dude, you need Mac Miller in your life every day.
Or, I get
100%. Yeah, dude. I mean, just absolutely beautiful music. Want to call out a line from this song specifically. It's and I see you falling victim to the thirst. All the sins you committed, you could probably use a couple minutes in church, but for what it's worth, I think you're perfect. There's an angel hiding underneath your surface. I think that's just like textbook, like a really cool rhyme scheme. Obviously, just like the general themes. Mac himself said he wasn't on planet Earth when he made Faces. This is like peak drug use Mac. I love that you picked a song from Faces, because Balloonerism was kind of like the follow-up.
Same era, right?
Yeah, it's the same era. So this was like recorded right around the same time, a little bit after, I think. The first single, I don't know if you listened to it, but it is really fucking good. Very Thundercat, very like jazzy type kind of, and you can tell he produced it too. So excited to see. Really trust the Mac Miller estate too. I mean, I know there's all kinds of estates, like Jimi Hendrix's estate is an absolute fucking mess.
Facts.
And there's like a lot of like artists that have passed, but Mac Miller's is handled by his mother and the people who managed Tyler the Creator. And so like, it's very much like hands-on, like everyone's kind of in agreement, it seems, and like everything that they put out is very thoughtful. You haven't seen, if they haven't put out like greatest hits or, any like bullshit like that. Like it's pretty thoughtful, and seems like, hopefully this isn't the last thing that he had on the shelf. But if it is, like, it's going to be really cool to experience it. So we'll talk more about that next week. So rides from it.
Nice. And I agree. Like, if it's the thing is he has done enough that if it is the last thing on the shelf, there's enough.
There's
like,
enough for sure.
Yeah.
But man, I'm fucking excited.
Yeah,
Like,
same, 100%.
yeah.
It came at the right time too, right? I had a shift in mentality, and I'm like, I need this right now. So, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Trey, what about yours? Intro your track for us.
Okay, for sure. I definitely remember exactly what I sent. I do remember what I sent.
You do this every week.
Every week. Forget. It's called fucking baby brain, baby iPad brain. Pool by Remy Wolf. So kind of with Bonnaroo's lineup coming out, and because we were doing Glass Animals, I kind of want to do something that like played off of both. There's a song by on the Glass Animals album called Pools. This song is Pool by Remy Wolf, who's going to be not only playing at Bonnaroo, she's also hosting a 1970s pool party throwback super jam. So I really fucking nailed the pick here if you're thinking about references. Just want to call that out.
Okay.
But she's like this kind of pop artist. She's like an indie Olivia Rodrigo, who's like kind of a Zoomer like pop girl.
Yeah.
I really like her a lot. I'm curious how you guys felt about it. I knew it was kind of tossing a half court shot with this one. So rides or dies for Pool by Remy Wolf and Still Woozy.
Anthony?
I knew he was going to make it. So here's what I will say. If I am at a 1970s pool party super jam at Bonnaroo, I'm game. Like, that's super fun vibe, right? Also, if I'm seeing Remy Wolf live in an outdoor stage, I'm in also. Like, I love the experience of indie music with a bunch of people. Barefoot in the grass, sun's up. Like, that vibe is so special to me, and like I like crave to experience that again. But hearing this song in Birmingham in December, not my favorite context for it. So for that, it dies. But Remy Wolf, I'm paying attention. I'm excited to see footage of that super pool set.
I mean, you could be there if you want to.
I could. Depends on if it's on Friday. I might go for Friday.
It's on Saturday.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When do the Glass Animals play?
Glass Animals play on Friday. Yeah.
Oh, hey now.
Anthony's like, now I'm on board.
Tipper is worth paying. If it's $150 for a single day ticket, I would do it for Tipper at Bonnaroo for the end, and just to go back to Bonnaroo. Blake, I know you said you'd never go back, but like, this is definitely not calling your name. You're not going to Bonnaroo this year, even after this lineup announcement.
I'm not going this year. I didn't say I would never go back, but if I'm going to come out of retirement, then it's got to be perfection. And that's you gotta remember, like, for y'all, it's easy to get there, relatively speaking. So for me to get there and even I can't do a day Bonnaroo trip. I have to go for the full thing, So it's like I'm just saying it's not likely, but I'll never, maybe by the time I come out, I won't be 96 Jordan, but I might be Wizards Jordan, and we'll have to see.
Still good for 35 points every now and again,
Right. Catch me in the right moment.
If you lived within a 4-hour driving distance, would you go?
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for Friday alone, that Friday is crazy. And like Trey and I text. I didn't think the lineup was bad. I thought it was average. I know Trey really, really liked it, but Friday is great. Like, Friday's stacked. So I think that is, if I lived close, I would swing it for that 100%.
3 days of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard playing weird different sets, and like
I forgot.
Stu just being all around the whole time. That's it. Like that alone, I'm like down.
That's gonna be cool.
That's gonna be cool.
Antics.
Yeah. And I think, like, to me, and I know that you guys do the day trips and stuff, but I don't know when the last time either one of you did a full one. But to me now, like, there's so much. Part of what would draw me back is like there's so much to do outside of Centeroo now versus when we went in 2013 and 2014. It was like you can't, and you went to Centeroo. There was nothing else to do. Yeah. Now there's a whole fucking world out there that, like, if you wanted to skip a day and find stuff to do in Centeroo, you could do it, like, 100%. Yeah. So I think that alone is something that would eventually draw me back. But anyway, I digress. Speaking of the rides or dies, I it was very 2000 and like, what was the vibe I got? Like, when was indie music popular? Like, that was
Right
probably
now,
like
baby.
2011.
yeah, 2011, 2012. Like, it was kind of like
collection.
Here's the thing: it was good, so I'm not going to compare it to the Lumineers, but like that was kind of the vibe I was catching, was like Lumineers era from that music. But I love her voice, so I really, really enjoyed it. I got to give it a ride.
You should listen to she has like a Live from Electric Ladyland set, and she does Pink and White by Frank Ocean. You would like it a lot.
Oh, that sounds sick. Yeah, for sure. All right, Anthony,
Nice.
what do you got?
All right, so my rides or dies, we don't have to take up too much time, but I've been trying to bring this rides or dies. I think this is the third attempt. Just we've had to shift gears or pivot in different reasons. But Dreamweaver by Gary Wright, it's a classic song, but hearing this song with 2024 ears or 2025 ears, this song has so much potential, I feel, to be edited, remixed, remastered, sampled. I mean, it's an all synth album, which is really interesting. The album itself, called Dreamweaver, came across my stuff, and so I listened to it through, and it's just an interesting take on music. So I knew this is a banger and a classic, but I had been trying to bring it for so long that I'm like, all right, let me just get it for completion's sake in there. So what do y'all think?
So I know I know it came out in 1975. Unfortunately for you, Anthony, it reminds me of an 80s song, and you know how I feel about 80s music. I despise it. So I didn't particularly enjoy it. I will be honest. I didn't like the synth stuff, and it's interesting because you and I have talked about synthwave music, like all synthwave music, and there's some of that stuff that I really enjoy, but like there's just something about his voice and the way he's singing that I was like, this is not good, and I don't like it. Yeah, I just did not enjoy it. It reminded me of who sings Careless Whisper? George Michael. It was like he kind of sounded like that was kind of the vibe I was catching. So yeah, I gotta give it a dies.
All right,
Trey.
Anthony, let me tell you something. You want to talk about a song that get fucking swirled? This song can get swirled, brother. When fly me high through the starry skies, maybe to an astral plane, cross the highways of fantasy, help me to forget today's pain.
It's right there waiting for you.
That sounds like Pretty Lights to me.
It's right there.
Yeah, I mean, for that reason alone, the song rides. But also just like the general, like the chorus, it's lovely. Like this is one of the songs that comes on the fucking radio at like, your parents' house or the pool or whatever. And you're like, oh, this is one that I can actually get down to.
It's just a vibe.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
At the moment I read Dreamweaver, you know what I mean? Like it owns that sound.
I don't know if you guys know this, but like you don't have to equate everything back to Pretty Lights. Like there are musical instances that have nothing to do with Pretty Lights.
That's not actually true though.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Let me say this.
Got it.
So 2011 through 2014, this is like mashup central also, right? Like there's a lot of artists making mashups. It was like a thing, right? Then it took a dive, and then it just people obviously creating original stuff and maybe sampling things. But then what Pretty Lights is doing is helping you personally, to me, and this is what has been happening to me since 2010. But like you start hearing music, then you start hearing the potential of what this music could become or what it could be used as. And that's maybe it's unhealthy. Like I said, I've mentioned before, like you start to hear sounds that aren't there because you're starting to put pieces together that maybe don't fit, but you're trying to make them fit. And a song like this, in the right setting with the right samples, it can be elevated. So like Trey, you hear the potential in that. Blake is hearing George Michael. Unfortunately,
I fully agree with you. It's a legitimate problem. I just want you to know that, like, I agree. That's fair. This is where my brain's going to go for the foreseeable future.
All right, I'll take it. All right. Cool. So we had Anthony pick the movie Flow, which, I'll let you kind of tell us a little bit about it, Anthony, and why you picked it.
All right. So Flow, it's like a 90-minute animated film, no verbal dialogue. And it is an experience. I mean, we're going to talk about it, but there's no spoilers to be had because this movie, in my mind, is meant to be experienced. And luckily, I got to see it in theaters. I only saw it in theaters because I knew there was a new animated movie coming around and had the opportunity to go check it out. I didn't know what the story was or any of the, behind the scenes or how it was done. I didn't have any context like that, but it's an animal journey, and the emotions that it's able to tap into, the way the music is utilized, the animal behavior, body language, and vocalizations throughout this film had me like in the theater being like, I'm going to use footage from this film to try to educate people on body language because there's just it's picture perfect. I haven't seen an animated film without the use of like suits on animals to be able to portray such accurate body language. And this was such it's like I said, it's an emotional, ethereal, atmospheric, like beautiful film. But you dig deeper and you realize how much work was put into this and how little amount of people it took. And this film only took 6 months to make. We'll talk about Blender, I'm sure, but like Blender being an open source software for animation, 20 people, 6 months in that software produced this fucking masterpiece. It won the Golden Globes for the best animated film. But even if you take all that aside and you just watch the film in itself, granted, at home, you guys had a different experience, just like I did when you watch this movie with animals, but without animals, and you can really just melt into the screen. Like it's a ride, and it's beautiful. And knew I was going to bring it here. Didn't know I was going to bring it here after watching Soul last week, but it gives me such a similar feeling, where it's just your mind can wander and you can just be absorbed by the visuals that are being presented. So amazing film. I don't want to spend any more time. I want to hear what you guys have to say, but yeah, Flo, what'd you think?
Me.
You got it.
Not everyone at once now.
First off, so when I started watching it, I was like, here we go again with another Anthony movie pick. I'll be honest with you. I did.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, here we go. I always texted Blake even. And let me tell you, man.
What would you have texted Blake?
Here we go again with another
talking about me, you guys. Yeah, I will own everything I put in here.
That's fair, and that's why we have you here. That and you're under contract, but so, dude, I mean, that was fantastic. Kind of all the things you said as far as like body language stuff goes, the way they use the music to really like, show the emotion of like what was happening. I also thought it was really cool how like the fun, like the little like kind of breaks for like comedic moments were like things the animals would actually do. Like when the cat would knock the shelf off from Zaboomafoo.
I love it.
Or like when the dogs jumped on the ship for the second time or first time or whatever, and they started sniffing each other and like kind of
the greeting sequence.
Yeah, the greeting sequence. Yeah, it was like like let's not forget these are actual animals. Like we are telling the story, but like they're kind of whatever. And then I've been reading a lot just because A, I really like to read, so I'm making time for it. And B, I found this really good like sci-fi series that I'm enjoying. It's called Red Rising by Pierce Brown. If you're into books, you should read it. Anyway, when you read, right, like you're kind of, you have an image in your head of what's happening with the story and you're like reading dialogue or whatever. This was like the exact reverse of that. And I've never had that experience before consuming media where it's like I'm picturing what these things are saying to each other. But they're not like talking. So I'm like creating the dialogue in my head and like trying to figure out like what they're saying and whatever. And there was definitely times where it was confusing. Like specifically, I think like I couldn't figure out who was cool. I think I wrote down a note. I was like, is this capybara chill or like is he a dick? And then the capybara ended up being like the absolute homie, and then like or like he seems chill. He just gave the cat a plantain. But also the animation, like I could never decide if it was really good or if it was just good for what it was. But one thing that they really nailed was like the lighting. Like there would be scenes where like the mountains would be in the background, like you could tell like the direction that the light was coming from. I thought that was really, really tight, especially for this like cheap style of animation. My only complaint is 2 minutes solid of intros of the studios that worked on this film.
Right?
Literally 2 minutes.
Okay.
I was like, when the fuck is this going to end? How many people worked on this goddamn movie? It's an hour and 10 minutes. And then the animation came on, and I was like, there's no way that many people worked on this movie. This is fucking RuneScape.
Right. Well, like I looked. Well, so the fur of the animals, I think, is the offset of animation, where they mentioned they could have made it completely realistic, but it would have affected their ability to manipulate the body language in that software. So like they had to make, there was constraints to the production, right? But the I had such a funny experience in the theater where during the intro credits, I looked around and was like, we're not at the end of the first movie, are we? Because like this is lasting comedically long, you know. But so long. But it delivers right where it needs to. And also, Blake, I'll let you get right after this. Like the ability to interpret what these animals are communicating to each other, like that is what I do for a living. Like that is my world, and like being able to see it so explicitly put right in front of you accurately, I'm like, this is the movie to study. Like this is the template to give people, you know. And in hearing and seeing all the groundwork and legwork that the animation director did, consolidating resources for body language and vocalizations and just interspecies communication is so honorable, you know, because it does take a lot of studying to be able to portray that accurately. But for someone who doesn't do that for a living, you're still able to connect the dots, right? And it's such a beautiful experience to have.
By the way, I touched my microphone very tiny like amount, and it fucked up my computer. So if I sound like shit now to everybody listening, sorry. Yeah. Awesome.
Just don't yell, whatever you do.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try to keep it brief, but I downloaded Blender a while back. So like the intro to like learn how to use Blender is this YouTube series on how to create a donut. It's like the famous first Blender thing that somebody created. It's first off, it's like 20-minute episodes, like to create a donut, a standstill donut in Blender. Like, and I have probably 3 or 4 projects that I had made that are just stills, and they would take me hours upon hours to create. And they're very simple images as someone who doesn't do it for a living, was just doing it for fun. So having that experience with Blender and then finding out they did this movie in Blender is fucking mind-blowing to me, because like I understand why there's 5 minutes of intro leading up to the movie, because like this is such a massive undertaking to not do this in like a professional grade program. Like Blender is a free program that you guys can download tonight and make stuff in if you wanted to. Like it's limited in what it can and can't accomplish. So I thought that alone like set the movie to such a high standard. But I had to listen to it with headphones on because the dogs were freaking the fuck out because the animal noises are so accurate. And even when I was watching silently, like anytime the dog was on screen, Riley was at the TV. Like he was bringing the dog his toy. Like he kept bringing the toy over to the TV. Like take the toy. Like that's how
exactly what the dog is doing in the film too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you live with that.
Yeah, it's hilarious to watch how they interact. But I just loved the interaction, and we talked about this before, like with Planet of the Apes. You know, some people watch Planet of the Apes with no subtitles and do it like to see kind of if they can read what the body language is, what's being said, things of that nature. This is a very similar concept. Like Trey said, you can't really tell who's good, who's bad, what the environment is, what their interactions are with each other, like emotionally. But I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was weird. I thought it was, you know, gut wrenching at times. I thought the passing of the swan was great, if that's how you viewed it as a death sequence. And there's definitely a lot of themes that I think I would pick more up on if I went and rewatched it, you know, to kind of see, because I was more caught up in like the art style of it and just like the adventure than trying to pinpoint what themes are being said in the movie. But I thought it was really, really cool, really solid pick. And it was cool to have that, obviously, with puppies in the house now, like dealing with animal shit now. And yeah, I thought it was really cool. And also, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a video game that won a ton of awards called Stray, and the premise of the game is you're just a cat trying to find its way home. So it's like the story is like 40 hours, and he's, I think the cat's in like a major city like Tokyo or something, but you're playing the cat trying to get home, and it's a black cat. Or no, I think it may be orange and white, but it reminded me of this movie. It's like a cat trying to get home, and it's super popular. People love it. So if you have a console, you should definitely try to play it. But that's kind of where my mind went, because the animation is kind of video game esque. Like that's what the style looks like.
It reminded me a little bit of RuneScape for sure. Like that's kind of like there was certain parts like very rudimentary. But
yeah,
still.
like blocky almost in certain areas. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Conversely, there are some images that are breathtaking. The ascension scene that the ascension scene you're talking about, Blake, where the deer are walking in a giant circle.
Oh, that's like the dream sequence thing or whatever. Yeah.
The obviously the whale, shark, dragon creature thing is just mesmerizing. Now, if you guys rented it, it will get this. So like the movie kind of ends with the animals near the puddle where the beached, creature is, right? Mm-hmm. If you watch it through the credits, did y'all watch it through the credits?
I know what you're referring to, but it's because I saw it after the fact.
Gotcha. Well, if you hang out, and this is my advice to any moviegoer, especially in a theater, sit through movies through the credits, like hear that last needle, like that last sound end, because there's almost always a payoff, not necessarily always an end credit scene, but just hearing how the director finishes the sound of a film, I think is so special. But this one pays off with this beautiful, majestic scene of the water, and love how throughout this film the water like floats between the camera like that. So you're getting perspective on top and bottom, and then you get light refracting too. But the end of the film is that whale just really like going off majestically into the sunset. So it's a beautiful payoff, and like I said, the images in this movie will stay with me forever. And there's many ways to interpret this film, but I think kind of the genesis was a story about a cat being a solitary kind of, animal or being, really having to rely on interactions and relationships with other animals, and of other species too. So it's a really, 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 I think, cool journey that it goes through, and glad you guys could have, the experiences that you did.
It's very similar. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say it's very similar to how like I could do the podcast by myself and it would still probably be phenomenal.
It's almost exactly like that.
But like I kind of
a lot of RuneScape.
I rely on y'all to kind of prop it up a little bit. It's very similar to that. It's kind of what I took.
Yeah, I think the theme of the dog like kind of having to like leave his old friends behind, kind of because he's like outgrown and like learned to work with others a little bit better, and he has like this new group of friends. I like that a lot. I think that was a big part of like a big takeaway for me. Kind of like how I could leave you guys behind, but I choose not to.
Well, the funny thing is, could you? Because you tried that and you came crawling back, you sack of shit. All right, that was cool.
Excellent pick. All jokes aside, absolutely excellent pick.
Thank you.
There's all the great things of an Anthony pick.
Yeah,
Thank you.
None of the bad ones. And conversely, like
wait till 3 weeks from now.
It's the antithesis of Bo's Afraid. All right, so next week, let us know.
Both of you.
Go ahead and tell the people what we're doing.
All right, so next week we are going to do something a little bit special, something I don't think we've ever done before. Is an album and a movie that are directly related to one another. So Balloonerism by Mac Miller comes out this Friday. This Friday would be, today's the 13th, so Tuesday's the 14th, so Wednesday's the 15th, so Thursday's the 16th, so Friday will be the 17th.
So the day after this comes out.
So we will drop that the following week. And then there's also a companion movie. I don't really know that much about it. I just saw that it exists. I think it was made by some of Mac Miller's friends. That's inspired by the music of Balloonerism. So it's not like a music video or anything like that. I think it's like its own film. So we're also going to do that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Fuck
Won't
yeah.
cry.
Balloons
Won't cry at all.
on deck.
Cry. No
Won't
crying.
because men don't cry.
Yeah. that's the title for next week's episode. No crying.
No crying.
All right, well,
Right,
it was a
cool.
blast, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry if I sound like shit for the last 5 minutes of this, but whatever. It is what it is. Fucking deal with it.
You'll be
All
fine.
right.
It's all
See you guys next
See
week.
y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. Peace.